In our previous coverage from the Neil Howard stages, we saw that battle for the overall results unfold, with Sam Moffat and Keith Moriarty eventually coming out on top ahead of Snetterton stages winners Rhys Yates and James Morgan. In this show, we're going to take a look into the various classes from the event, where you can always find some really good battles and plenty of action and variety. Straight into the action then, and it would be the early lead for Team Newton, Christopher and Anthony. They were seeded quite well, so the pressure was on. Mixed in amongst some of these awesome cars on the fantastic entry, but as soon as that green light came on, the nerves soon went. They lead Class A at this stage.
Team Newton, you're flying again today, aren't you?
Yeah, we're trying to. We're just looking at the pro tyre, so we can win tyres after this round, so we just need to win some tyres. So, but going very well so far, so just need to keep it up.
For James Hardy and Nick Wilkins, it would be going well despite a bent bottom arm on the infield section. That was now starting to affect the handling on the micro a little. They did still, however, have a good advantage in that place. Third in the class would be the micro of Kay Thompson and Charlotte Wainwright. The pair were going well, but despite a bit of a gap to second place, the remaining places in the class were all very close, so they would need to keep pushing in the afternoon. Their closest class rivals at this point were Barry and Oliver Marshall, fourth in the class and only 12 seconds back on the timesheets at this stage. Rob Jones and Chris Cook would be having a few brake issues that would be costing them some time. The Fiesta pair just 2 seconds back from the Marshalls up ahead.
In Class B will be the early lead for Chris Rook and Steve Harris. They didn't have it all their own way though, just 6 seconds an advantage in that class lead overall.
Chris, tell me everything. It seems warm in there, but you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been good, yes. Yeah, we're first stage have actually gone properly, to be honest. It was first stage 2, we caught a car, just couldn't get by him. But now it's going well. The only thing I've got is a oil pressure sensor, looks like it's gone. It keeps going down, lights coming on, but we think it's all right.
Second in the class at this stage and chasing hard was Zach Hughes and Ian Beaumont. They have a big moment on the second stage, running wide onto the grass and towards those barriers. Thankfully, though, they do get away with it. No damage to the car. Intercom problems wouldn't be an ideal start to the rally for Danny Davies and Liam McCallion. They would have the team working on a solution ready for the afternoon stages, just to avoid those hand signals. For now, it was third in the class, just 4 seconds back from Hughes despite those problems. Mark Peterson and Jim Bowie had enjoyed a fantastic debut in the car last time out at Snetterton. And this weekend, well, it was going well. They finished the morning 4th in the class. And for Lewis Gatt and Ian Jones, it would be 5th place in Class B. The gap's getting bigger now, but they were still only 23 seconds behind Peterson ahead. This would mark the first time out with a new, bigger engine for Michael and Phil Jones, and it was taking some getting used to, it was fair to say. Frustratingly, they'd retire later in the day. Up until that point, though, things had been going well. And a lack of power would be the only complaint for David Forrester and Ian Nichols. The car running a standard challenge spec engine. Despite that, however, they were having great fun on the stages, which of course is the main reason to be out rallying.
In Class C, there would be a bit of a problem with a lack of grip for Josh Payton and Jamie Vaughan. They do have a bit of a moment at one of the splits where they take out a few cones too, but despite all of this, they still lead the class.
Now, I'm gonna do it. Talk to me about the split and the chicane and all that business.
We got a little bit too excited and we didn't leave enough space to stop, and we took it all out. It was a bit messy, but that one was clean. That's the main thing, isn't it?
How was that stage?
Yeah, that was alright. Yeah, not too bad there. It was a nice bit of grip in that, so yeah, going well. So try and make some time up now. That's the thing.
Second in the class would be Nathan Evans and Rhys Williams-Edwards. They had some gearbox issues leading up to the event, eventually getting the car running on the afternoon before the rally. Thankfully things were going okay during the event though, and the times were looking good so far. This weekend would only be the second time in the new car for Alex Cannon and Alan Carfrae. It was still taking some getting used to, having not driven in front-wheel drive since 2014. They end the morning with third in class. It would all be a bit last minute for Jackson Willett and Robert Burgess as they get a very late call to run on the event. The team put in a big effort though and did make it happen. They'd wanted to compete here since 2014, but unfortunately something had always got in the way of that. So this weekend was a special moment for the pair. They lie 4th in the class for now. And for Christopher Woodward and Tom Bowen, it would be 5th place in Class C, just 13 seconds back from Willett ahead. The morning didn't go to plan though for Josh Evans and Callum Young. They snapped a shaft on stage 2, causing them to lose some time. That meant that the rest of the event would be just about seat time, and of course having some fun on the stages. And it would be even worse news for Brandon Leonard and Matthew Baddeley. The engine lost all power coming over the finish line of stage 2 and meant game over. Luckily for Brandon, it was only 20 minutes away from home, so it wasn't long to wait to drown his sorrows.
Class D would once again be led by David Henderson and Chris Williams. Class winners from the previous round at Snetterton are looking good for victory here again at the midpoint as well. A lead of 23 seconds for now, looking fairly convincing.
Current Class D Championship leaders, how are we getting on today?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's pretty difficult this morning for us, just with the slippy stuff. But I look forward to the afternoon where I don't have so much slidey stuff. Just lose so much time coming out of the corner is the problem.
Just behind them on the leaderboard were reigning champions Barry Morris and Tom Hutchings, unable to defend their championship prior to this round due to travel restrictions from Ireland, but back now and looking to pick up where they left off. Understandably, after 15 months out of the seat of that Darien, it would be a cautious start, but the times were still good and lying 2nd in the class. The gaps at the top of the class wouldn't be that big either. 3rd place Peter Jackson and Craig Simkis only 9 seconds back from the Darien up ahead. The afternoon would look like being a close fight throughout these podium positions. For Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones, the gap was a little bigger, admittedly, but still only 17 seconds. The difference of, say, a puncture for a car up ahead on the stage. Not out of the running for a podium position themselves, with the afternoon stages still left to run them. And for Ciro Carinanti and Simon Coates, it would be 5th in the class. The Porsche pair just 4 seconds back from the Escort up ahead. Darren Nugent and Liam Whiteley would be happy that they were finally getting to do a rally after first planning to sit together since March last year. Of course, we've all had a few things to contend with since then. Sadly, they do have a few issues here at their first round together, losing the paddle shift and the electronic dash on the 2nd stage of the day. But after that, things were starting to look up and they were going to plan.
In the E1 class, it would be Adrian Spencer and Lauren Hewitt leading the way. Having to get used to a standard gearbox in the Subaru as the other one broke at Snetterton. The times were clearly good though, and they were having fun, which is what matters.
How are we finding it this morning?
A bit strange because I've had to put a standard gearbox in it because after Snetterton it broke, so getting used to it has been a bit problematic, but I think that one stage there didn't make any missed gears, so hopefully. But yeah, no, it's going good. It's really nice day. We're having fun. We're back rallying. What more do you want? You know what I mean? The car's still in one piece, so.
They would have a small lead of just 9 seconds over the Evo of Darren Meadows and James Squires, 2nd in the class for the pair and within touching distance of that class lead. The gaps after that in the class would be a little bit bigger, with a sunburnt Greg Williams and Richard Edwards taking 3rd in the class at this stage in the event. Michael and Sean Stanley had only just finished rebuilding the engine before this round, carried out in the unusual surroundings of the living room floor, apparently. They were enjoying the stages, but sadly a puncture on the infield section would ruin their chances of a higher position in the results at this stage.
The E2 class would, of course, feature some of the crews fighting it out at the top of our leaderboard, and it would be the lead in that class for Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman. They have a bit of a moment in the 2nd stage of the day when they went wide on the 1st corner, a fast one at that, ending up on the grass. Luckily, only a scare, no damage to speak of.
2nd fastest stage time on stage 3, Mr. Kelly.
I know, I couldn't believe it when we got in. We knew it was a good stage, but to get in and see the times, absolutely made up with that. To be fair, on my second pass through, a chicane was slightly open, so we grabbed a bit there, but no one's counting, are they? So yeah, so far so good.
For Kev Proctor and Derek Fawcett, it will be second in the class. 10 seconds back from Kelly at the moment. No strangers to this event or this venue, so still within grasp of that class lead and some overall positions. Third in the class would be this man, Joe Cunningham and Josh Beer. A highly anticipated last-minute opportunity that Joe was both excited for and nervous about, understandably. But the times were looking great, faster than they surely could have hoped for at the start of the rally. James Yates and Tom Woodburn make a return to the series. They'd enjoyed some good results in the past, and this weekend it will be no different so far, out in the newest spec Fiesta, putting in some good times to end the morning fourth in the class. Meanwhile, here's Gary Jennings with Rory Kennedy alongside. Here for the British Rally Championship this weekend, and out in the Fiesta R5 for the first time, they end the morning fifth in the E2 class.
We probably don't need to say it, as it's true of all the classes, but the battle in Class H was a close one, with Ben and Stephen Smith coming out on top of that at the midpoint in the event. The gap would be about as small as you could get, with just a single second separating the leaders from second placed Terry Pankhurst and Alex Allingham. Alex is an instructor here at Oulton Park on the rally school stage, so if anyone is going to be able to get Terry round here, I think it's going to be him. Stu McLaren and John Anderson bring the fantastic ex-Opel team Sweden Cadet out for this round. Sadly, they would have an issue with a loose rocker cover on stage 2 and have to put up with some oil smoke around the stage, but they were still going and would get the issue sorted for a better run on the next stages. Rounding out the Class H runners would be Kimberly and Yvonne Mather in their Sunbeam Lotus, 14 seconds back from McLaren ahead.
The MX5 class would once again prove popular here as far as the entry list was concerned, and more importantly, there wouldn't be as many retirements as we saw at the previous round. So on to the action. Paul Sheard was subbing for Chrissy Palmer this weekend, Toby Marshall alongside. They start the rally off well, leading the crews at this stage. For Stephen Johansson and Lewis Griffiths, it would be second place in the class. The time's not quite as tight in this class, but there were still some fights forming up and down this MX5 leaderboard. The gap back to third place, Paul Gorge and Daniel Hurst, would only be 2 seconds. This weekend, the pair would be running in a new engine after theirs failed, of course. Remember that at the previous round? They do lose a little time with an overshoot, but apart from that, it was going well, and all the oil was at least in the engine. For Nigel Brain and Catherine Jenny Brain, it would be fourth, almost a minute back on the times, but in a closer battle to keep hold of that position, so there was no backing off. The fight at this stage for that position coming from this man, Steve Dolman, Julia Perry alongside. Fifth place for now, 20 seconds back from Brain.
The BRC1 class would see the top of the event overall, fighting it out with the class as well, with our very own Frank Bird and Jack Morn leading the way at the midpoint in the event. The lead had increased over the morning, but was still only 6 seconds, so the pressure was never off. That lead would be over Rhys Yates and James Morgan. They were having fun out on the stages and keeping the leaders in their sights. Anything could change in the afternoon stages. Third place at this stage would be Mr. BRC himself, Matt Edwards and Darren Garrett. They were trying a few things to get some more seconds out of the car. Until this point, very little time had been spent in there, and a new, harder compound tyre had made things a little bit untidy in places.
In the BRC4 class, it would be the early lead for Will Crichton and Liam Regan. They weren't walking away with that lead though, only 11 seconds the advantage at this stage in the rally. That advantage would be over Kyle White and Sean Topping here, second in the class, trying their best to chase down that lead. And for David Kelly and Dean O'Sullivan, it would be third place in the class, the Fiesta pair, a further 9 seconds back on the results. So the morning stages are complete here at Oulton Park. Let's remind ourselves of those class positions after 4 stages.
On to the second half of the day then, and there would be a small amount of change in the BRC 4 class as we see Eamon Kelly and Conor Mohan moving up to third in the class at the end of the event. The rest of the podium places in the class would remain the same. Carl White and Sean Topping unable to catch the leaders and settle in for a well-earned second place. Which of course meant that it would be the class win for Will Cretan and Liam Regan, a great start to their British Rally Championship campaign.
In the BRC1 class, there would be plenty of change. Previous leaders Frank Bird and Jack Morton would unfortunately for them spin on stage 6, losing a valuable handful of time, dropping them from the lead. They do though manage to put in some good times to bring themselves back up to third, but they would ultimately be excluded from the rally when checks found their car to be underweight. There'd also be change for this man, Matt Edwards, Darren Garrett alongside. They get a 10-second penalty for not slowing down after the flying finish, meaning that the reigning British rally champion drops down from the podium position. So all of those changes mean that we would see Austin Price and Noel O'Sullivan stepping up to take third. A great start to their season. For Rhys Yates and James Morgan, no change. They managed to keep hold of their second position, just missing out on victory by the smallest of margins here at Oulton Park. And that means, of course, it's victory overall and in the class. For Sam Moffat and Keith Moriarty, they take the win by just a single second here at the Neil Howard Memorial Stages.
In the MX5 class, there would be a little change in the results as Chris Cooper and Victoria Swallow step up to take 5th in the class. Things remain the same for Nigel and Catherine Brain as they end the event with that 4th place that they've held throughout the event. Things had gone well for Paul Gorge and Dan Hurst. They enjoyed the day, especially with the fans back out watching. They take 3rd place in the MX5 class at the end of the event. Things would remain the same in the rest of the class too, with Stephen Johansson and Lewis Griffiths ending the event with 2nd in the class. And that means that it's a class win for Paul Sheard and Toby Marshall. A really good end to the event for the pair, taking the win by 1.5 minutes.
We're on to Class H then, and it would be a position lost for Stu McLaren and John Anderson. They were having to bleed the brakes before every stage. Far from ideal, they'd also get caught out behind a car spinning on the gravel. Narrowly avoiding that, they end the rally with 4th place in the class. So for Kimberly Stewart Mather and Yvonne Mather, it will be a place gained to end the rally. 3rd in class, and that fantastic looking sunbeam. For Terry Pankhurst and Alex Allingham, meanwhile, there would be no change. The gap opening out slightly by the end of the rally, but still only 11 seconds at the finish. A good, close fight in the class. He's back to work right here at Oulton Park for Alex on Monday. And that means that it's the class victory for Ben and Stephen Smith. It hadn't been easy, but the pair take victory here at Oulton Park.
Kev Ferber and Colin Blunt would be out after a very long time away from competing. Back out with a new car too. There were a few inevitable mistakes with a new car and lack of seat time, but they were really happy with how things had gone at the end of the event. Neil and Daniel Roskell were loving the fast and flowing corners here at Oulton Park. They were happy with the pace against the R5 cars and setting some really good stage times in the very competitive E2 class. There would be some changes in the class in the afternoon, with Tom Preston and Carl Williamson managing to take 5th place in the Fiesta WRC. The car was looking so good in its new black colour scheme. Sadly though, there would be a drop down the results a little for Kev Proctor and Derek Fawcett. They end the event with 4th place in the class as well as 9th place overall. For James Yates and Tom Woodburn, it would be 3rd in the class, a really great end to the day for them and setting some faster stage times too. They take 8th place overall. It would be a fantastic end to the event for Joe Cunningham and Josh Beer. A very last minute deal to drive the car certainly paid off, taking 7th place overall and 2nd in the MSN Championship battle here at Oulton Park. A great result for Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman means they take the top spot in the MSN Championship results, as well as 5th place on the overall results. The times had been so good throughout the event, only 20 seconds off the pace of the rally winners after 8 stages.
We'd see a bit of drama for Michael and Sean Stanley through these final stages of the day. The bonnet flying up on the car, leaving them with a smashed screen, ending the rally then with 4th in the class. 3rd in that class would belong to this man, Greg Williams, Richard Edwards alongside, a couple of minutes back from the lead, but with a good advantage in that position themselves by the finish of the rally. Looking through the rest of the class, there isn't any change for Darren Meadows and James Squires. They end the rally 2nd in E1. And of course that means it was victory for this man, Adrian Spencer, Lauren Hewitt co-driving. A great run for the pair to end the rally with almost a minute's advantage by the end of the day.
In Class D, it would be a welcomed finish for Alistair Stables and Neil Jones, their first finish in 3 events. They did have a minor disagreement with a gate post on stage 2, but after that it was plain sailing. For Nick and Sally Whale, it would be 5th place in the class to end the event, a good move up the results in the afternoon stages. Sadly for Peter Jackson and Craig Simkis, it would be a move the other way. They end the event with 4th place in the class. That move would be due in part to the good times being posted by Chiro Carinante and Simon Coates. They moved from 5th place to end the event with 3rd in the class at the end of the day. Unfortunately, there would be no challenging for the class win this time out for Barry Morris and Tom Hutchins, but with plenty of setup changes being made throughout the day, they would certainly be ready to hit the ground running when it comes to the final rounds at Anglesey in just a few weeks' time. But that means that there would be no change at the top for this round. David Henderson and Chris Williams setting out what they meant to do, ending the event with the win and a good advantage in that place too.
In Class C, it would be the first time out in that new Avenger for Ken and Joe Sturdy, and they'd finish without a mark on that stunning livery. Sadly, a stage maximum after a wrong split would push them down the order. This was put down to a driver ignoring a co-driver situation. You know those, yeah, right? Joe slotted the event in between his F1 commitments, where he works as a Honda Power Unit Systems engineer for Max Verstappen. No change to 5th place in the class through the afternoon. Christopher Woodward and Tom Bowen ending the event with that position. And it would be a strong result for Jackson Willett and Robert Burgess. They've been aiming for a top 10 in the class, so coming away with 4th was a welcomed end to the day. Alex Cannon and Alan Carfrae, meanwhile, would get held up a little in the dust on stage 5. They get caught behind another car, but the times were still good otherwise. There's a bit of a dispute over them being in Class C instead of Class B, which wasn't changed on the results at the time of editing, but regardless of the class, there was no disputing this fantastic result on the overall leaderboard. Nathan Evans and Rhys Williams-Edwards would be happy with their result and their pace at the end of the rally, especially given their gearbox issues prior to the event. They end the day with 2nd in Class C. Josh Payton and Jamie Vaughan were another crew struggling with the dust on the gravel sections. Did someone say this was a circuit championship? Catching and getting stuck behind the cars. A bit of an occupational hazard on single venues. They do finish with the class win though, adding some more points to the championship tally, making it 3 wins from 3 now.
This would be the first time at Oulton Park for father and son teams Steve and Sam Casey. The pair were enjoying the challenge, especially on the infield sections. They end the event with 11th place in Class B. Things had gone well for Howard Alexander and Martin Young in the end. They would start a little cautious but soon pick up the pace. The only real problem would be the co-driver and his map getting wet through the water splash. Oh no, Martin! A strange start to the event would see Ben and Andrew Wilkinson thinking they'd picked up a stray tyre underneath the car. It was in fact a vibration that had caused the hydraulic handbrake locking arm to engage. They would lose a few minutes but would be back on track for the rest of the event, eventually recording a faster stage time in the class on stage 7 too. Things would remain the same for Lewis Gatt and Ian Jones in Class B. They take 5th place in that class this weekend. And a similar story for Mark Peterson and Jim Bowie as they end the event with 4th place in the class. Sadly for Chris Ruck and Steve Harris, things didn't quite go to plan. They moved down the results into 3rd place in the class. Disappointing not to take the class win, but at least recording a good finish. It would be a great day with only minor issues for Danny Davies and Liam McCallion, happy to come away with a 2nd in Class B this weekend. But taking the win in that class would be Zach Hughes and Ian Beaumont, happy with the times and setting 5 fastest times for the 6 stages completed in that rapid Twingo.
In Class A, it would be a slight drop down the leaderboard to 5th in the class for Barry and Oliver Marshall, losing a position in the afternoon stages. There'd be no such issues for Rob Jones and Chris Cook, the car finishing without any issues and with both wing mirrors attached still as well. A perfect birthday present, you might say, for mechanic John's 60th birthday. Happy birthday, John. Kay Thompson and Charlotte Wainwright, meanwhile, keep on track to secure 3rd in the class at the finish. A good end to the rally for the micro pair. And despite not being out in the car since the end of last year, it would be a great finish for James Hardy and Nick Wilkins. They were feeling like they needed some more horsepower for next season though. Don't we all? So that means with no change at the top of the Class A results, it will be victory for Christopher and Anthony Newton once again. They'd been worried that they were going to get caught by the faster cars around them on the entry, but they actually ended up catching some of the more powerful cars themselves. There's a lesson or a moral to that story somewhere. They were happy to take the class victory then, as well as the pro tyre points. The tyre prizes make a big difference to people's budgets in this championship. So confirmation then of the results here at the Neil Howard Memorial Stages at Oulton Park. And what a spectacle it had been as promised. Round 3 of the championship is complete. Next up, the crews head to Wales and to the Anglesey circuit for a double-header weekend. 2 days, 2 events, 1 champion. Join us there for live coverage and regular updates throughout the event. And plenty of review coverage afterwards online as well. It's all right here on the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship Facebook page.